evening or good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is 2:31 a.m. here in Vancouver, British Columbia. I am James Kuzno, coming to you from the ProPix TV studios. Tonight we're going to talk about all things Invictus and any other topics that you want to join in and throw up on the comments section. All comments I pay attention to, and of course the conversation is open to any topic you want to discuss. So I thought that we would kick off because we know that the Invictus Games are here in Vancouver and Whistler, British Columbia during the week-long event. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have made their appearances well known throughout the venues and different cultural events that have come around to circle the games. It has been an exciting week so far. Of course, we're halfway through the games, and the just amazing attitude, resilience, and attitudes of all of the athletes is nothing but inspiring. And that's why when you use the hashtag IM and then insert your own descriptive after that, but I've been using I am inspired because of the fact that I truly am. I am very inspired by the athletes, by the sports, and just by the openness and camaraderie that's come with the games. Unlike a lot of international competitions, there is less arrogance to the athletes. There is less arrogance to the sports. It is all about fun. It's all about games. It's all about people who have been through many challenges in defense of their own nation or world peace, coming together and just really enjoying sport. And, if you wonder how this works, is that there are teams that are participating this year, and it is the first introduction of many winter sports to the Invictus Games. And that is amazing because, for example, Colombia, these team players have never seen snow before, and yet they're out on the slopes, and they are having a great time. And what a life experience to be able to come back from life-altering injuries, from life-altering mental illnesses, and so much more, and sickness, and then to be on an international stage of competition together with others from very similar type of, whether it be injuries, illnesses, or such, but from different parts of the world. And sport has brought them together. Competition in a friendly environment and a welcoming and encouraging environment is just amazing. And so without further ado, let's first take a look at the medal counts that are calculated as of the end of competition on February the 12th. So we're now one day past that, but again, it's early here. It is 2:34 a.m. on the 13th, so of course there's no competition going on until later this morning. And of course tomorrow night we will bring you updates on the medal counts and the events of tomorrow. But let's take a look here. So we have Australia with 3 golds, 2 silver, and 2 bronze. Given the number of awards and medals given out so far, I won't break it down by sport or by athlete because there are quite a few to get through. So Belarus has taken home 2 silvers so far. Canada has 3 golds, 5 silvers, and 3 bronze. When we move on to Colombia, as I said, some of these folks have never even seen snow before, and here they are up in the mountains of Whistler enjoying the amazing weather and snow conditions there. And of course, there's other competitions, including the basketball, the volleyball, and so much more that are indoor events. With that said, Colombia so far, as I said, has 1 gold and 1 silver. Denmark, 1 silver and 1 bronze. We'll be keeping an eye on them. I'm sure they'll kick up in the standings as well. Estonia has made away with a gold medal so far. France has 1 gold, 2 silver, and 4 bronze. The country of Georgia has 1 gold so far, and they are still in competition for more as the week goes on. Germany has won 1 gold and 1 bronze. Israel has 1 gold and 2 bronze. Italy going for the gold. They have 4 of them, 4 gold medals for Italy. Korea, the Republic of Korea, has 1, 1, and 1. So 1 gold, 1 silver, 1 bronze. Lithuania has 1 silver. The Netherlands have 1 silver as well. Let's see, New Zealand, 1 gold, 1 bronze, and 1 silver. They are just keeping it balanced. Let's see, what do we got here? Poland, 1 gold, 1 silver, and 2 bronze. Now we get into some real competition and some real medal counts for the UK. Has taken home so far 3 golds, 4 silvers, and 5 bronze for the United Kingdom. Well done to Team United Kingdom. Now Ukraine has 6 gold, 5 silver, and 5 bronze. So 16 medals for the Ukraine so far in this year's Invictus Games. Congratulations to all of them, and Slava Ukraini. The United States has 9 gold, 10 silver, and 4 bronze, taking the lead in the overall medal count. There is also the Unconquered team, and they have 1 bronze so far. Now, the various Unconquered teams are made up of different citizens from different countries, and what happens is that if a nation does not have enough players or enough of a team to round out, for example, an entire basketball team or so forth, then they can join the Unconquered team. And that is a mix of people from different nationalities, different countries that come together and compete together as a team. It's a beautiful way to really make sure that inclusiveness is available for all of the different sports and all of the different nations, all of the different veterans who have given of themselves and suffered injuries as a result therefore. And therefore they are still included, which is pretty cool and unheard of for most international competitions, where you can get actual groups from various nations coming together on one team. So that is pretty exciting. I think that is really cool. Of course, throughout the events, there have been some great competitions and great volunteers, amazing staff. I mean, I just can't say enough about how well the games have gone so far in Vancouver and Whistler. The snow conditions have been great up on the mountains, whether it's the local mountains or up in Whistler Blackcomb. And with that said, the weather has been great here in Metro Vancouver as well, with a lot of sunshine. It's been cold and there is snow on the ground, but the sun has been shining most of the week, which is a great opportunity for people to get out and enjoy the sights when they're not competing. There are so many events going on throughout this city and throughout the Howe Sound up to Whistler, that there is no lack of things to do. If you have not yet checked out any of the Invictus Games competitions, there are still tickets available for different events, both in Whistler and in Metro Vancouver. So feel free to check out the website at invictusgames2025.ca. You can get links there to all of the different activities, all of the events, the sports, and the schedules that you can check out on the website. And you can also get links to get tickets. Let's also remember that this coming weekend is going to be exciting with the final closing ceremonies happening, because there will be concerts by Jelly Roll, as well as the Bare Naked Ladies and others who will be performing live at the closing ceremonies to celebrate the final event of the Invictus Games 2025. The next events will take place in 2027 in Birmingham in the United Kingdom. So again, London has hosted them previously with the inaugural Invictus Games. And of course, now they are going back to the UK. That will be pretty cool as well in 2027. I'll look forward to being there live to bring events and such. Unfortunately, that is 2 years away, so it's a bit of a wait for that to happen. Now, we can also take a look at where the name Invictus came from, because it's a very well-known poem that was written many years ago, and that was brought up to Harry and his team when they were looking at naming the games, and that is what they decided to go with. And it is pretty cool. We'll take a look at not only the meaning behind the poem, but the poem itself, so that you can understand the words and where they come from in terms of the I am slogan that is used and is seen all over not only the venues, but of course throughout the venue cities. In this case, it's Whistler, it's Vancouver, and the greater area in between. Throughout the Howe Sound, you have Squamish, you have Britannia Beach, you have just so many different locations, and it's been amazing to see. So with that said, I'm just going to pull up the poem here and actually read that for you so that you understand what Invictus is and what it is about, what it stands for, and why it is such a fitting name for the games. It is, it's very inspiring that way. And of course, we know that Invictus is Latin for unconquered, and it is definitely a representation of the games and what it stands for. So let's just pull this up here if I can find it. And just bear with me one moment as that opens. And again, it was a poem by William Ernst Henley. And again, I just think that it is such a fitting tribute to the athletes of the Invictus Games. To really, this poem not only is very descriptive of themselves and the games as a whole, but I think it can resonate with a lot of people around the world. So the poem itself goes like this. Invictus, out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged the punishment's the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. And once again, that was Invictus, the poem by William Ernst Henley, and that is where the Invictus Games have derived their name. So I think that it is very fitting of what the competition is about and what everyone here is representing in terms of the friendly sport of competition. And I think that could resonate with people outside of the sports arena as well. So once again, that is where things are at with the Invictus Games. As I said, the next games will take place in 2 years in Birmingham in the United Kingdom. I hope that people get out and enjoy the games while they're still here in Vancouver. And if you are one of the countless volunteers that have made the games so successful here in Vancouver and Whistler, thank you for giving of your time, of giving of your energy, and giving of your spirit. And I think that is a lot to be said for the amazing showing of enthusiasm by all of the athletes alike. So with that said, let's take a look at another image from the games here in Whistler and Vancouver. It is beautiful, as you can see there, the blue sky out on the slopes, and I'll just move over a bit. Oh, we lost it. So there we go, and just trying to move out of the way so you can see some of that behind this fat head. And again, it has been just an amazing competition. The medal counts are great. But even more so, just the enthusiasm and the incredible energy that it has brought is second to none. So compliments to everybody involved in the Invictus Games, and outside of the competition itself, again, the people behind the scenes who have organized and made things happen. So it is a great time. I'm going to move myself this way a bit. And as you can see, so with the rifles and the target shooting, they're using a laser or infrared gun of some sort. So it's not actually shooting live rounds. It is shooting beams of light, and it's not like a scope where it lights to the target. Just the pulse of light goes to the target, not an ongoing beam of light to cheat, so to speak, in terms of your aim. So again, that is one of the changes made to the shooting event, and that has happened in various international competitions where they are using these new type of technology, the new type of rifles, and instead of using live rounds, this is a different way of doing it. But at the same time, it's still quite the sport, and as you can see, there we go. You can see her taking aim, and just the ability of people to participate in all of the Invictus Games events are amazing. The work that went into making sure that everything was accessible for different ability levels is great. And yeah, once again, it is amazing. Thank you for bringing the games to Vancouver and Whistler, and we look forward hopefully to having them back here again, not in the too near a future, because we wanted to, of course, represent other countries and other cities around the world that participants are from. But by all means, Vancouver loves having international events, especially when it comes to events like the Invictus Games. With that said, coming up soon, there will be the Vancouver Rugby Sevens coming up as well. So if you're more into a rugby game, you can always check out. I'm not honestly sure if there's any more rugby left for the Invictus Games, but if not, don't forget that there are the Vancouver Sevens coming up soon as well. You can find that information online. But let's move on to other stories in the news. We know that Donald Trump is running things in the U.S. Some would argue that he is a puppet for Elon Musk, but regardless as to your politics, it should be known that Elon Musk and Tesla has just won a $400 million contract through the State Department in the United States. So again, Elon Musk and his companies have just made off with another $400 million contract of taxpayer money. Now, if this is not a clear and focused example of potential conflict of interest and corruption, I don't know what is, to be honest with you. I think that as he sits in the halls of the White House talking into Trump's ear and all of the pressure that he has put on all different agencies, I think for them to be awarding a $400 million contract to Elon Musk and to Tesla, I think just stinks of corruption myself. I think that there are other options, but once again, I don't feel that it is appropriate that Elon Musk and Tesla receive that contract for $400 million of federal U.S. dollars. This is just the biggest cry out of conflict of interest that I've ever seen, and definitely breach of ethics and so much more. But we won't get into that too much. But yes, he has won the $400 million bid, which in that budget is for the State Department is the largest so far in terms of federal government contracts for the year 2025. Again, I'll leave that up to the viewers to decide what you think of that. But again, I don't feel that there is an appropriateness to that contract going to Tesla. With that said, we can move on to other things, folks. If you have anything that you want to talk about, by all means, put it up on the comment section and we can talk about it. Conversations are always open to different topics, different ideas, and of course, different regions. Let me know where you're signing on from, where you are joining the conversation from in this beautiful world of ours. At least most of it anyway. We've been talking about different things. Now we know that Narendra Modi is due in the White House later today. It's going to be an interesting conversation between India and the United States that may have to do with trade, human rights, and other issues. We know that with the United States calling out the India government in terms of the potential involvement of politicians and the RAW, which is their spy agency, essentially, or intelligence agency, with their involvement in the attempted assassination of Gurpatwant Singh Panun in the U.S., a U.S. citizen based in New York and the leader of the Sikhs for Justice campaign for a referendum on Khalistan. We know that there is going to be probably some very interesting conversations going on between Donald Trump and Narendra Modi in the U.S. today at the White House. With that said, there is planned protests in front of the White House by Sikhs for Justice and other Sikh organizations in protest of the human rights atrocities that have been taking place in India for decades that still continue to this day, as well as the extrajudicial killings of Sikhs and other minorities within the borders and outside of the borders in the form of transnational repression and the foreign interference into foreign elections. Of course, we know that the Adani Group was also named in an indictment several months back, and that had to do with the Adani Group being a very, very wealthy multinational corporation. And the founder, of course, Mr. Adani, is one of the richest men in the world. They were facing charges of corruption through the bribery of different Indian politicians in different regions to secure green energy contracts. And this is in breach, or was in breach, of U.S. laws that were brought in 1977. So the laws have been in place for decades, and that prevents U.S. companies from bribing foreign officials and foreign corporations or executives in order to secure contracts in foreign countries. It also works to stem the corruption of U.S.-based politicians as well. That law has been put on hold, as has all of the current prosecutions of those who have been charged under the Corruption Practices Act. And that means that Mr. Adani, who was under the indictment and very close friends of Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, it looks like his charges will be dismissed. Narendra Modi will be able to go home and brag that he got that done. When it is all about being multi-billionaires and being connected to Donald Trump that gets them out of trouble. Another corrupt individual who was the politician from Illinois who was given 14-year sentence. The last time Trump was in office, he gave him a commute on his sentence down, which saw him released during Trump's last appointment or last run as president. And now he has been fully pardoned. So we'll see where that leads to. But again, a big supporter of Donald Trump. So it's no surprise that he got himself a full pardon from the U.S. president. And we'll have to watch how this new pause on the anti-corruption policies and anti-corruption laws plays out in the U.S. Essentially, how it's been described is that Donald Trump feels that because U.S. companies and U.S. corporations, U.S. individuals are losing business because they're not allowed to bribe, blackmail, or offer any type of corrupt payments to foreign executives, foreign politicians, and foreign leaders, he feels that that's impacting the U.S. economy in a negative way, that they are not allowed to secure international contracts because of the fact that they're not allowed to bribe and use coercion and corruption. So that just opens the floodgates and sets back the Anti-Corruption Act around the world by decades, because the U.S. had been seen as the gold standard when it came to anti-corruption laws around the world. That the companies and business leaders would be held accountable for corrupt practices by bribing foreign governments, foreign individuals, foreign politicians, foreign businessmen. But now with the pause on those laws in the U.S., the gates are open now. It is the wild, wild west in terms of contract negotiations. U.S. corporations and individuals are now allowed once again to bribe, blackmail, and basically use corrupt practices to obtain advantages in contract negotiations, in winning procurements for different contracts, whether it is government, supply, and so much more. So again, we'll keep an eye on how that progresses throughout the system, because it is a huge step back in terms of anti-corruption and anti-bribery laws that impact the world. Moving on from there, of course, we know that the environment has become less of an issue for Trump and for the U.S. Administration, but have no doubt that I'm sure that will be on the minds of people in the White House today. As I said, Narendra Modi is in town to meet with Donald Trump at the White House. And when it comes down to it, India actually was a big beneficiary of the Paris Accord and other climate change grants and movements. So again, people or countries were putting into a pool up to $200 million. A part of that was going to India to help them with their pollution, with their environmental issues, with their climate change. And so it's interesting to see will be interesting to see what comes out of the meetings with Trump, given that that agreement has been canceled by Trump and the U.S. has backed out of it. That was probably a substantial part of the funding. Now, with that said, of course, we know that, there are different levels of funding that are coming into organizations such as the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum, the World Bank, NATO, and so many others. And when Donald Trump talks about the disparity between the levels of funding that are going into these organizations, it's important to keep in mind that essentially how it works is that each country that's participating commits to put forward a certain percentage of their GDP, their gross domestic product, and revenues. So they put towards the different causes. So each country is committed to the World Food Programs or to anti-poverty, to World Aid, and different things. And that comes out of the commitments that each country makes. Now, when you look at NATO, of course, again, it is the target of the member countries to contribute 2% of their GDP in terms of military spending. Now, that doesn't mean that they are just giving all of that money over to the United Nations. In fact, what that means is that each nation is spending that 2% on their military, on their armaments, on their equipment, and on their forces and so forth. And that is how it calculates. They contribute a small amount for the management and the running of the United Nations for NATO. But at the end of the day, that is money spent on the participating countries' own land and protecting their own borders from international threats. So it's not like that all of that money is going to NATO or to other organizations. It is a lot of it has to do with Homeland Security in terms of military, the Air Force, the Navy, and so forth. That is spent on that on the domestic ground. So again, it's not like they are giving all of that money to NATO. So that's one of the misconceptions, I think, when people look at international organizations, international aid. Again, it is up to the countries that are participating in these different organizations, whether it is the United Nations, whether it is NATO. It is about the commitment of a certain percent of GDP. Now, where Donald Trump is completely right and definitely has a right to bitch is that they have hit their 2% GDP target, as have many other nations that are a part of NATO, and some of them have just pulled up to that in the last several years, whereas countries such as Canada, and I will call out my country because we are behind in the target of 2%. We need to escalate our spending to make sure that we are supplying our military with the latest technology and gear that they require. If we are going to ask for people to go out and to give their all to protect our nation or to protect world peace and other issues, then the least we can do is make sure that they have the proper equipment to do so with. So again, definitely we need to step up our spending on military in Canada. And a lot of times, yes, it is wasted money in some people's opinions, because the whole idea is to deter war, not to enter war. And that is got to be kept in mind, that sometimes the best deterrent is being prepared for a war. And nobody wants it. Nobody wins at the end of the day when there's wars. But at the same time, if you are weak and don't have that preparation in place and the equipment in place, then people in other nations try to take advantage of you. And I think that that's something that people are seeing, is that there are a certain nation that wants to bully and use their force to bully other countries right now into submitting to what they want. And that is definitely not acceptable. Now, let's take another look at the anti-corruption laws that have been basically put on hold and put on the back burner in the U.S. And yet, at the same time, Trump wants to use tariffs and other punishment towards nations that don't cooperate with the U.S. in what the U.S. wants. Now, instead of the Trump government going after and threatening tariffs on countries that are very corrupt and encourage corruption and take part in it at the political level, instead of putting pressure on them to stem or to reduce that corruption, instead Trump throws in the towel and says, let's be just as corrupt as them, or we can beat them at the corruption game, at the bribery game. So again, the fairness there is just not making sense to me. I would think that instead of caving in and giving up on decades of advancements on anti-corruption and equal trade, instead of that, just giving up and jumping in saying we can be better at corrupt policies and practices, we can be better at bribery than anybody, is just really the wrong message to send. It also shows the lack of ethics and controls that are in place right now in the operation and policies of the United States government under the command of Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Let's face it, we know who's really in charge, and that is the raw, hard facts of it. Back in Canada, of course, we know that there is an election coming up later in the year, and whether or not it'll be Mark Carney or will it be someone else leading the Liberals. It seems that the Liberal Party is gaining some traction once again after being way down in the polls and the Conservatives being way ahead. It seems to be balancing out and maybe even swinging back in favor of the Liberal Party under the potential leadership of Mark Carney. Now, Mark Carney has worked in government before, or in the political realm anyway, leading the Bank of Canada and the UK banks and so much more. So he has been very much involved in the world of finance and economics. And he is also seen as someone who will go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump when it comes to negotiations and to not back down on Canada's sovereignty, independence, and financial well-being. And that is seen as a very big advantage to Mark Carney as the potential next leader of the Liberal Party. But again, we'll watch how that goes. It seems that there has been some shift from the Pierre Poilievre side in the fact that he knows that his name calling and his grade 2 level antics are going to be no match for Mark Carney, if that is indeed who ends up taking the leadership of the Liberal Party and facing off against Pierre Poilievre for the role as the next Prime Minister of Canada. So it seems like they are starting to move in a different direction and starting to take it a lot more seriously. And that is something that I think is going to be too little too late for Pierre Poilievre. And the fact that he is just a mini-me or a parrot of talking points from U.S. politicians and the MAGA movement, what they call the Maple MAGA or the MAGA Maple, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, people just don't trust Pierre Poilievre. He comes across as a slimy snake oil salesman. But hey, that's right in line with Donald Trump. So it wouldn't be surprising to see some behind-the-scenes influence going on there. We also know that there was potential involvement of various governments with foreign interference previously in leadership campaigns with the Conservative Party, so we'll have to watch and see. Elections Canada, the RCMP, and others have said that they will be keeping a very close eye on the Liberal Party in the leadership race, as well as the upcoming election later this year. So we'll watch and see how that plays out. There's not going to be a lot of change in terms of the Elections Canada policies, procedures, and otherwise. Expected before the election, even in light of the Foreign Interference Commission's report that was released several weeks ago. It does not appear there will be a lot of changes to the Canadian electoral system before this election, but we definitely will probably see some major changes and some more scrutiny going on as the years progress here towards the next election, not this coming one, but the following one. I'm sure there will be a lot of changes that happen between now and then. Other than that, folks, you've been watching ProPix TV and Live Chat with James. I thank you for tuning in, for following, and don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to keep up to date on these stories and others as they come in from around the world and stories that matter to you. Once again, thank you to all of the volunteers, the athletes, and organizers of the Invictus Games. It's been an honor to have them here in Vancouver and in Whistler, and I'll look forward to bringing you more reports on the games as they progress throughout the week, leading up to, of course, the big ceremony on the weekend. That'll see Jelly Roll performing, the Bare Naked Ladies performing, as well as others. So once again, you've been watching ProPix TV. I am James Cousineau at the studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. Take care, everyone. Stay safe.